Hey guys, such an interesting video on Wild Rift. So today we are back with a Vayne supplementary guide. Now, to be honest, I kind of considered putting this as a updated complete guide, but in reality, I kind of expect that Amaranth's Twinguard is gonna get nerfed for non-tank champions sooner or later. So I didn't really want to put this as like the updated complete guide for Vayne. I sort of just wanted to put it like as an alternative build for Vayne, but make no mistake, this is gonna be like Vayne's main build. Same goes for Corki. We're gonna cover Corki in like a day or two's time, but today we're gonna take a look at Vayne first with the Amaranth Twinguard. So now, just a real quick explanation on why Amaranth Twinguard works. Basically, it gives you 55 armor and magic resist, which is a lot, and then it also of course gives you that passive where after 5 seconds in combat you gain an extra 30% of both resistances as well as 20% tenacity. And the only part you don't really want is 30% size, but that can't really be helped. Everything else is sort of just way too good. So the key here is the armor and MR that you're getting. The extra 30% is not based on additional armor, it's based on your total armor. So even on ADCs and mages and whatnot, this is still gonna work because it's based off all of your armor. And what's more for Vayne, the icing on the cake is that she goes for Wit's End, which gives you 50 MR already. And this means that your boots is basically gonna always be armor boots so that you can get armor to boost up with the Twinguard. But let's jump straight into the build. So you go, of course, for Blade of the Rune King. This is mostly for the attack speed, small amount of attack damage. Of course, you got the physical vamp. And you then also, of course, have your tank shredding ability on your Blade of the Rune King, which is, of course, really helpful in this current meta, as well as the movement speed steal. So, basically everything you want. Now, here on Wit's End, you get 45 attack speed, 50 MR, as well as, of course, getting the on-hit magic damage, and also when you're below half health, you get extra healing from this item as well. And basically, you want to go for this item every single time, but from my experience, I used to try to go other items when there is an AP, like for example, I tried going for like Storm Razor, but from my experience, this item is simply too good. Getting like 45% attack speed is what Vayne loves, on-hit magic damage, Vayne loves that, and healing when you're below half health, Vayne loves that as well, so you pretty much always want to go for this item. Now, your boots, you want to generally almost always go for plated steel caps. Now, let me explain why. Now, you don't need this because you have your tumble consistently up for, you know, movement. You don't need this because Vayne doesn't care about cooldowns. You don't need Merc Treads because you already have Wit's End and Twinguard for magic resist. And furthermore, if you want CC immunity, you can go for QSS. So of course you go for QSS or Stasis. And the only real other option is getting Gluttonous Grease from Omnivam, because Vayne does true damage and the Omnivam does of course heal off of your true damage, but overall I felt that the plated steel caps was just amazing because you get 15 armor and less blocks 15% of damage from attacks, which is incredibly useful considering Vayne is really low range and consistently in range of people attacking her. So here, the last 3 items can be built in any random order, not random, but depending on the game can be built in different orders. First up, you have Phantom Dancer, which gives you crit. In this build, not very important. Attack speed, which is of course again Vayne's favorite stat. You pretty much get attack speed from like this, and this. So when you hit below 35% health, you also get that lifeline passive, which gives you a shield. And when it comes to Vayne, this is really huge. The main reason why this is huge is number one, these 2 items are gonna heal you. So when you hit that extra shield, it could allow you to survive a fight and end up getting an extra kill or 2, which has happened for me a number of times already. And yeah, that's basically the main reason why you built Phantom Dancer. She's one of the only champions in the game to actually build this because it's not really a very good item for majority of ADCs. Then we get Twinguard, of course, for the resistances, as we discussed pretty extensively just now. And then we top it off with a Bloodthirster for some again, a little bit of extra crit, mainly for the physical vamp as well as the shield. And this is also a huge injection of AD 50, huge AD, and the only other AD you have in this build is the 20 AD from here. Now, Vayne doesn't really actually care about AD because what Vayne really actually cares about is just attack speed, because her damage all comes from her W passive, which of course after 3 hits deals some true damage. So Vayne really only cares about attack speed to proc that more often, and she doesn't care so much about attack damage. Now, of course, as I mentioned, you can like swap these items around, like in, you know, depending on what kind of order you like or prefer. In this particular game, I went for this particular order. I went for Twinguard as my 3rd item because I felt that I needed the survivability. But yeah, So for runes and spells, of course, Lethal Tempo. As we mentioned, Vayne is all about attack speed. Then we go for Brutal, mostly because I think there isn't a better option. Like, yeah, like this kind of helps, but you already have so much lifesteal, why do you even need it? Also, I tried and tested it out before, but Brutal is just more consistent when it comes to that. And you don't need Giant Slayer because you have true damage anyway, you don't need this extra damage against tanks. This Brutal is generally more useful because it works on both tanks and squishy, and especially you get bonus damage, physical damage on hit. This is really useful because you basically only have physical damage like AD from here. So this actually gives you a huge amount of physical damage when you compare it to what you actually have in your build. So of course we have Bone Plating for the anti-burst and the extra protection, and I also like to take Nimbus Cloak for the extra movement speed. Of course for the spells we can go for Flash and we can go for Exhaust. Now of course Ghost is an option as well. I've seen a lot of Vaynes take Ghost and I think it's pretty good as well, but situationally it kind of depends. You can only really go for Ghost in certain matchups, but in those that you can, you know, that's going to be amazing. I might do a video on that if we do have a gameplay of that, but we'll have to see how it goes. But speaking of gameplay, we're going to jump into the gameplay for this particular build. Okay, so let's run through the gameplay itself. Now, obviously, I don't think I gotta explain why Vayne is amazing in this meta and when you want to pick Vayne. Now, Vayne can be picked in most matches nowadays, considering that we're in a tank meta and generally the enemy team is super duper tanky. Like, you see in this particular game, there's like a Shen and an Urgot. That's like two tanks who are both gonna build Twinguard, and that's more than enough reason to straight up just pick Vayne already. But yeah, so pretty much Vayne's gonna be good in every matchup, but Vayne still suffers from all of the usual drawbacks. Like, just, you know, brief reminder here that Vayne is not all that good if you don't know how to play her, or if you don't know you know what's going on. Basically, Vayne kind of sucks in the early game. There are only very specific matchups in the early game that she actually does okay against, like particularly like against let's say like certain AD carries like Kai'Sa, for example, is a pretty good matchup for Vayne, and like only very few supports are really good. Or like support ADC combos are really like okay slash good for Vayne. Like majority of matchups like this one, for example, here we have a Jhin Soraka, which will never win in lane. Like, Jhin does way too much damage. You cannot compete with Jhin's damage, and even if you could, Soraka is just going to silence you like what she did here. Soraka is just gonna heal the Jhin, so really in laning phase you cannot do anything. Now, unfortunately, in this particular game, I'm with a Leona who is an engaged tank who obviously kind of just wants to go in like what you just saw there. But I really don't want to go in, so we really should not be fighting at all in the laning phase. Like, ideally, Leona should simply just be standing around, getting CS with the Relic Shield, etc. But unfortunately, though, Leona here decides to go in. I try to compensate and try to help do a little bit of damage, but obviously, as expected, the trade doesn't really go very well. We end up losing it out on the trade, and on the follow-up, get hit by Soraka Q and a Jhin W, and Leona gets silenced, and we are both basically left at a quarter HP. Just pretty much a disaster overall. And here, Leona goes back in because she sees the Mastery. Mastery doesn't even move, and only after Leona is flashback out, Mastery starts to move. It's kind of a very, very painful series of events to watch. We both get chunked out. Leona goes back in again and blows Flash, and Master Yi takes like 3 seconds to react and actually start moving, and then Master Yi goes in and nothing really actually happens at all, and we're just stuck in the lane now at less than a quarter HP, both me and Leona, and now we're just getting pushed under tower, and you know, Jin's getting free tower damage, he's getting free hits in on us as well. Lux now comes in for the gank, and this time Lux actually goes in. Here Leona gets a nice engage. I was trying to get in on the action, but unfortunately I failed to notice Jhin had his 4th shot locked and loaded, and unfortunately I run straight into his 4th shot, so kind of my mistake there. That was pretty bad for me, just rolling forward into Jin's 4th shot. And this match has a very, very rough early game, but you guys know Vayne is one of the best late game scaling ADCs of the game, so long as you're not doing too badly in the early game, you can always come back in the late game. And matter of fact, in this particular game, we do insanely bad in the early game. Like, not just me, but like my whole team does insanely bad this whole game, and I honestly thought that this game was a lost cause. Now you'll understand why, like in not even like 3 to 4 minutes on from where we are now, but it just slowly goes from bad to worse. Like, as of now, it's not too bad. Not too bad as of yet. We're still doing like alright. Like we did die once, but it's so far it's not a complete disaster yet. The gameplay is sort of a little bit of a disaster, like what happened with all that lane shenanigans, etc. But in terms of the overall game state and all, it's still like not too bad. Of course, the enemy team is kind of winning, but we're not like getting destroyed at the moment, not just yet. Alright, so anyways, here we're just trying to keep the minion wave to our side, and we're just trying to farm as safe as we can. But yeah, it's a very aggressive lane of a Jhin and Soraka. This Soraka is playing particularly aggressively, which is the correct thing to do here. You know, because she can't afford to step up and just do damage, silence, etc. Although the one thing I will say about the Soraka is she's using her silence very liberally, and you generally don't want to spam it. Because you might actually need it, like for like example when Leona goes in, or there's a surprise gank, so you don't necessarily want to spam it. But this Soraka is pretty much using it on cooldown. Alright, either way, here the Dragon and Herald is of course about to spawn. Here I'm going to back, I presume, to get the Blade of the Rune King, which we do complete, so we're on the 1 item spike here. And here we're headed over to the Dragon fight to see what we can do. Master Yi is of course in the area, decides to go for the blue buff first, no big problem with that. Lux gets caught by the Shen and tries desperately to really do something, but nothing is really happening here. Here Jhin randomly flashes. I don't think he needed to flash there. There's no way I was killing him there anyways. I don't have the damage. But anyways, we get Jhin flash for free. So it kind of looks pretty bright. Jhin lost his only form of mobility at the moment. And here we basically end up clearing out each other's wards right here. And you know, both teams just hovering around the dragon area. Pretty normal dragon dance. And Master Yi just randomly decides to start the dragon, which I don't think is the best idea. But on the side, Leona tries to go in on the enemy team, ends up taking a chunk of damage again. And here Fizz ulties, and I get hit by the edge of the ulti, which kind of traps me a little bit at the side. I managed to get out, but Shen hits a beautiful 3-man taunt, and I go down, my team goes down, and basically, as you guys can see here, this is sort of where the disaster happens, where my team gets completely ace 5 for 0. And you can see now the scoreline. Enemy team has a dragon. We are 3 versus 11 kills, and in terms of gold, we are instantly like 7k gold behind. Of course, we were already like pretty far behind. Now we're almost 8k gold behind at this point, and we're only 6 minutes into the game. So if anything, I would say that this game started off as a complete disaster. Like at this point, it is the kind of game that, like, you know, you somewhat be willing to surrender. I mean, I generally don't surrender at all, but it's the kind of game that when you look at the game state, it's like the kind of game that you're gonna surrender like pre 9 minutes kind of game, where the whole team kind of surrenders. But as I said, of course, we don't surrender, because the reason why we don't surrender is because the enemy team always, like, not always, but like majority of the time, like 90% of the time, enemy team is gonna make some kind of mistake, gonna slip up, give away shutdowns, etc. So that's why I generally don't surrender. I'm gonna see if we can actually do anything about the situation here. So now we know most of the enemy team is in the mid lane, so we're gonna do what we can, which in this case is just picking up some plates. Here we picked up 1 plate. Plates are gonna fall off, and Jhin has decided to ult. I honestly think it would have been better if Jhin simply just walked up and attacked normally, but he decides to ult. We both barely take damage from it because we're both at full health, so kind of a waste of the Jhin ult here. But here, Lux coming in for the gank again. I believe the minion would have spotted her because she walked up when the minion was coming in. Misses the binding again, so nothing can really happen here. If Lux hits the binding, could have been a pretty good like 3v2 fight. But here Soraka steps up. So here I'm trying to punish Soraka stepping up. But unfortunately, I end up getting punished for trying to punish her, because I run past the Shen and I run straight into the Fizz, and there are 4 enemy team members up here, and obviously I'm not gonna survive. Leona also dies, and now Lux is kind of you know, stuck under the tower with the wave coming in. Not too much that she can do, and it's sort of becoming a situation like from bad to worse. Now at this point, you can see from the scoreboard, we're 10k gold behind. So 10k gold behind within the first 8 minutes of the game. She tries to actually back, but she ends up getting sniped out by the Jhin ult. And there she goes. Me and Leona respawn. Fizz is pushing mid tier 2. Leona goes in, but Fizz of course goes untargetable using his E, and again nothing much we can really do here. And yeah, it's pretty much just a disaster overall. We're like already 10k gold behind, and yeah, the game's kind of a lost cause. You know, no two ways about it. But of course, as I said, just hang tight, just don't do anything stupid, and wait for the enemy team to slip up. The whole like thing about like Wild Rift is that generally teams who are very far ahead are way more likely to slip up than teams who are only slightly ahead. So if you're like 5k gold ahead, generally you know it's a pretty close match, so you don't generally do stupid stuff. But when you're like 10k gold ahead, generally that's when your team starts doing stupid stuff. Like look at the goal now, they're like 11k, almost 12k gold ahead. That's when the team starts taking like 3v5 kind of fights or like whatnot. Speaking of which, here Urgot just goes in. I use everything on him basically, and of course, being Vayne, I can shred through him using my true damage. So Urgot goes down. Whole enemy team finds himself in a horrible position. Here we're going on Soraka because she's the healer of the team. We want to get rid of her so she can't heal the rest of her team. Shen comes in here, and here I'm going for the Jhin. Of course, I exhaust the Jhin, and unfortunately Leona ends up getting the shutdown. Here Shen, you guys can see, has the Amaranth Twinguard already. He built it as his second item, and he's really tanky. And he's under tower, so I can't really do too much against him here. But of course I'm going to jump away from the Fizz. We ran out of minions, so there's not too much we can do. So here we already removed Jhin shutdown. We took out the Urgot as well, who didn't really have a shutdown, but still a valuable target to take down. As well as the Soraka, another available target to take down, who actually I believe does have a shutdown at this point. But anyways, we remove the major shutdown on Jhin. So now next up we have like Shen, who's 4-0 and 8, who has a huge shutdown, and Fizz, who's 3-1 and 2, also has a shutdown. So here we spot the two of them in our jungle, and they're going for the Master Yi. So here, getting the Master Yi doesn't give them a lot of value, but anyways, I'm gonna roll away from the ult. And here they take another relatively dumb fight in between our two towers. In my opinion, it is a even numbered fight this time though. So here I'm really just doing everything I can. I'm just DPSing down the Shen. You can see I'm focusing the Shen because I want that Shen shutdown. So I'm focusing the Shen, I'm focusing the Shen, I'm focusing the Shen, and I finally get the Shen, and I finally get the shutdown. So now I'm gonna change targets, go for Urgot, who's the next closest target. Pantheon gets him. And here I'm going for the Fizz as well, who apparently did not have a shutdown, but anyways, we pick up the Fizz kill as well. Oh, he did have a shutdown, so we did get the Fizz shutdown as well as the Shen shutdown. So you can see here, despite all those shutdowns, we are still 9k gold behind. So, but the good news is that I got majority of the shutdowns aside from the Jhin shutdown. So with that, I now have both Bork as well as Wit's End, and now I'm going, I have the Stasis as well to counter the Fizz in case he ults me. And now, as I mentioned, I'm going for Amaranth Twinguard, and the reason why I'm going for Twinguard earlier in this game is because Twinguard is generally the item you want to get when you need survivability more so than damage, and this game is one of those games that we need survivability. Jhin randomly gets trapped in the pit and dies, but here really we have the damage with the true damage. We need the survivability to not get bursted by the Fizz or the Jhin, and we can take out the rest of their team just by surviving. Like no big problem here. So we're going for Twinguard as our third item in this particular game. Now obviously they're gonna get the Herald, we're not gonna get there in time. Fizz wastes his ult on Leona, so we know that Fizz doesn't have ult. That's amazing. Leona ends up going in here, and we end up bursting down the Soraka instantly, which is huge. Urgot with that Sterex, huge shield. But of course with the true damage, I shred him down and my team finishes him off. Here I condemn Shen out of his Twilight Shroud so that he doesn't have the basic attack immunity. Fizz tries to go in. Lux actually has a triple kill here. I flash forward to get the kill on Fizz, but he doesn't actually die. Here I pop the Stasis, but I nearly get sniped by the Jhin, but thankfully he slightly mistimes it, and as a result I end up surviving by the skin of my teeth. My team should have been blocking for me there, but my team not very cooperative here. Now here I'm going to go back, buy more components of the Twinguard, and if you take a look at my goal at this point, 12 minutes in the game, I'm at a 9.6k goal, which is actually more than the Fizz and the Urgot at this point, more than the Soraka. We're coming close to Jin's goal and then Shen's goal as well. So we're kind of back in the game at this point because the enemy team threw a couple of fights, and you can see also that my team's goal deficit is now 7k. So we're slowly reducing the goal deficit, and of course now we're just going to farm as usual, usual ADC stuff. Just gonna farm wherever we can. Fortunately, kind of whiffed and missed the cannon there, and yeah. So here we're just going to back and. We're actually going to go for the red buff, and we're going to group up with our team. Now the main way you come back from behind is grouping with our team. If you're always split off from your team, very easy to get picked off by the enemy team and very easy to fall further behind. So here what I'm going to do is quickly going to pick up the red buff, and you can see a fight is already breaking out. So I'm going to zoom over to the fight and try to contribute. So here we see Urgot very overextended. Here again, we're just going to shred through the Urgot. You can see that with the Vayne shredding, you know, again, we're going to shred the Shen as well. Of course, Shen with the Twilight Shroud, with the Starex, really tanky, but here you can see we managed to get the Shen as well. Exhaust and stun goes down onto the Jhin, and I get the kill onto the Jhin. And yeah, the enemy team is just falling apart at this point. 4 kills donated over to us. And here we're just going to keep pushing. Here avoiding the Fizz, of course. So here we're just going to go for this tower. With the help of Master Yi diving, we managed to actually pick up the kill. And Master Yi survives using his W. And here we ran out of minions, but with the help of Leona tanking and Lux tanking a shot or two, we are indeed able to pick up the tower with no casualties. And, you know, getting, you know, like basically a delayed ace and 2 towers is pretty huge. Now we're at 3k goal behind the enemy team. So we managed to pull the 12k goal deficit to a 3k goal deficit. As I mentioned, this is why you don't surrender, because the enemy team generally always does stupid stuff. This even happens in high elo, like Grandmaster, Challenger, Master, etc. It always happens. So anyways, here we got the Twinguard. Now we're going to build towards the Phantom Dancer, of course, as I mentioned. So here, a couple of enemy team members in the middle lane. So not much, not much we can do. We don't want to go near that bush in case they're in there. We're just gonna safely farm up. And here I'm actually, I was planning to go down bot to catch the bot wave, but you know, as I said, we want to stay grouped with our team. We're still 4k gold behind the enemy team, so we don't want to, you know, start getting cocky ourselves and start getting caught out ourselves. That's a no-go, because, you know, then that basically means the enemy team is gonna start winning again. So here, red buff is up, so I'm going to help Master Yi take down the red buff quicker. And here I'm going to get the buff share. Here we spot Fizz overextending. We're trying to see if we can get a punish onto the overextending Fizz. But Fizz is a slippery character, he has his E. So here, me and Master Yi try to go on him. I actually try to condemn him, but he used his E to make himself untargetable. I don't think it's a good idea to really chase him. Here you can see Amra Twinguard proccing after 5 seconds. But here I'm just going to clear out the minion wave. You can see that in mid lane a fight is breaking out. And I'm going to run straight over there. Master Yi does not get the Fizz in the end. So as I said, kind of a waste of time. In the end, the fight kind of disengages. And instead we're going to go over to the top lane to try to clear up this huge wave. And the next dragon's coming up. So here I'm just going to reset to pick up the Zeal, just because, of course, you want to be at maximum power whenever there's an objective fight. So even though it's just a small upgrade, still worth the bat, because we're going to make it there in time anyways. Now, unfortunately, I get sidetracked by a slight problem, which is that this wave is going to push into our inhibitor. So here I'm just pulling the wave to the side a little bit to let our wave come out and stop it from colliding into the inhibitor. And the fight has already broken out. So here Shen goes in by himself. I condemn him away to prevent myself from getting taunted. I managed to shred him down. And Jhin somehow ends up behind us, and we end up killing him as well. Urgot is the next victim. And next up we have the Soraka, I believe. And Fizz is the last man standing, mostly because he must have backed after Master Yi tried to go on him. Anyways, here I stasis the Fizz ult, because I'm relatively certain that if Fizz ult hits me at 3 items, he can just go in and one-shot me. He's gonna die for it, but I definitely don't want to die to him. So anyways, here we just pop the stasis, immune the Fizz ult, and we're fine and dandy. We pick up the dragon, and we're just going to, of course, continue on to farm. So here, off of those couple of kills and off of the farm, we are going to be able to back and pick up the Phantom Dancer, so that shield gonna come in handy, attack speed gonna come in handy as well. And now at this point, you can see my team and the enemy team is basically on the same level at this point. The difference is like 1k gold, which is pretty much nothing at this point. So here, the game is finally back to being in an even state after my team threw the game so hard at that point in time. And here I'm just farming the minions again, and we see that my team is going to the enemy jungle, and enemy team has only 2 people there. Fight's gonna break out. Obviously, you can see enemy team rotating from mid, and here I'm rotating from bot. And here I'm going to attack the first person, which is going to be the Urgot. Condemn him against the wall. He's going to die. Shen tries to come in. Fizz tries to come in as well. We're going to finish off the Jhin. We're going to finish off the Fizz. And yeah, Shen has hightailed it. Actually, he didn't even get here because the Urgot died before his ult even went through. But anyways, Shen is the last man standing this time, and here we can go for the Baron. Of course, remembering to control ward the pit. Not that Shen is, I mean, I guess Shen could steal the dragon. He is the jungler, but don't think it's a good idea for him to even come near. He did try to get here though. So here, with the enemy team still some time away from respawning, here I'm gonna go onto the Shen, force the Shen flash. Pantheon unfortunately flashes to try to catch him as well. But here we're gonna pick up this bottom lane tower. Now I actually think it's a pretty good idea for us to back here and not actually try to push, continue pushing. But because my team kind of doesn't want to back off, we're just pushing anyways. A little bit dangerous, but kind of works out fine. We do get the tower. Shen and got the 2 tanks trying to go in. Unfortunately though, I am a Vayne and I'm going to just shred them to pieces. Here I'm going on to Soraka because Soraka's going to heal the rest if I don't kill her first. Fizz tries to go back on Fountain, doesn't matter. Look at how much damage I'm taking here with the Twinguard, by the way. Like in all these fights with the Twinguard, I'm barely taking damage, just look at that. So with that, we end up coming from behind and finishing the enemy team off and winning the game. So hopefully you guys enjoyed that Amaranth Twinguard game gameplay. And I'm gonna leave you guys with the stats as usual. So thank you guys so much for watching the video, and goodbye.